Today on America's Court with Judge Ross.
He had a barbecue in his backyard. The propane gas got out of hand and burned down half of that fence.
Okay.
Now, the fence that was rebuilt is now a foot higher than the original fence and is a different color. And there's a total eyesore in my house.
You got a lot to say here. And I'm with you. In my courtroom, it's about equity and fairness. You want him to pay $628.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, knock my socks off. Justice should be more than just some foreign concept. I actually want you to learn something. The law talks about something may in fact be true, but can they prove it? And that's what's tough.
Fair, firm, compassionate. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. Daniel Downs claims his neighbor burned down part of a fence separating their yards and says the repaired section doesn't match. Mr. Downs is suing James Thomas in the amount of $1,500.
All rise. Remain standing and come to order. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Kevin Ross presiding.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated.
All parties be sworn, Your Honor.
Get Eboni Thomas. Mr. Downs, you want a fence that costs $1,500 and you want Mr. Thomas to pay for it.
Not the case, Your Honor, with respect. That fence was existing. He had a barbecue in his backyard. The propane gas got out of hand and burned down half of that fence.
Okay.
Now, the fence that was rebuilt is now a foot higher than the original fence and is a different color. And there's a total eyesore in my house.
Now let's go back. You got a lot to say here. And I'm with you. We'll start with you all are neighbors.
Correct.
Yes. How long have you been living at
I've been living there for 20 years. He's lived there for 3.
What's the fence made of, sir?
It's made of wood.
And had the wood been stained and maintained over the years?
It was originally stained and maintained.
Okay.
But
I'll get to you, sir.
Okay.
But the wood fence was at least 20 years old.
Correct.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about this fence. Let's just say the fence is
30 feet, Your Honor.
Yes. I didn't even have to do that. You were right there with me.
I was getting ready to say
it's
that.
It's a 30-foot long fence.
Yes.
How much of the fence was burned?
About half.
Would you agree that's correct?
Agreed, sir.
All right. Seems to me if you're going to have 2 different looks unless you do the whole thing.
Okay, sir. But I talked to Mr. Downs, more than once about.
The first time you talked to him, what did you say?
Him and I should get together, and because the fence is so old,
right,
I'll fix half of it, the part that I accidentally burnt.
If the fence is 30 feet in length,
yes,
and you burn 15 feet, that's solely your cost. And then the remaining 15 feet, you would split the cost with that because he didn't have anything to do with the first 15 feet.
Before the fence got burnt, we talked about.
You were talking about this fence and whether or not it should be replaced anyway.
Right.
Is that true, Mr. Downs?
I'm struggling on Social Security, Your Honor, and I don't have any extra capital to invest in the property.
That just wasn't in your budget.
Correct.
The same here, Your Honor.
In order to construct a new 30-foot wood fence, how much would that be?
$1,500.
Okay. What's the $1,500 that you're suing for, sir?
He want me to fix the whole fence, and it cost $1,500.
So at this point, how much did you pay for the part of the fence that you've put up?
What I could afford was $750.
Okay. Then why are you asking for $1,500?
Because that's the quote I received, Your Honor.
Oh, I see. Let me take a look. If it has to be done with the way you would construct it.
I've been trying to talk.
Okay, yes, this is a problem.
Okay.
The fence that's a different color and is taller, is that the newer portion?
Right.
That portion looks great.
Yes.
It's the old, shorter one that's faded that looks like an eyesore.
That's the issue, sir.
This was the portion that you said, we need to fix this anyway.
Before it got burnt.
Right. You were like, it all should look like the portion that I built.
I understand, sir, but I did what I could do.
For $1,500, then what we're really talking about is they would tear down what was just built and give you something that was consistent all the way across. It doesn't make sense to tear down the part that's brand new. It's just a question of extending what's already done.
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
you're saying that the people that you got the quote from want $1,500 just to do the remaining portion.
Correct.
Do you like the new portion?
I like the new portion if it was consistent and it was the same color.
Sir, the guy complains about everything.
Well, what has he been complaining about?
He complains about the neighbor house across the street, the color
I'm talking
of
about as it relates to you.
it. He complains I cut my grass too early. He complains about
I'm sorry, what do you mean you cut your grass too early?
I'm telling you, that's exactly what I said.
You complain about him cutting his grass too early?
He said I don't cut my grass even. It should be even.
Saturday
he complains
morning,
about my flowers, my pansies, too many bumblebees. Too many bumblebees come.
there's another side to the story, sir.
No.
Hold on a moment.
I don't have no control over human nature. That's God Act.
Please listen to
Why
my side
are
of
you
the
banging
story.
the table?
Because nobody's listening to me, sir, and it's a critical element to his attitude in our
Well,
neighborhood.
who's the only person that matters if you're being listened to?
Myself, sir. And yourself, sir.
There, that part.
Correct.
Coming up on America's Court.
You're cutting the lawn early Saturday morning, and
Yes,
he's
sir.
complaining that it's too early and the noise is disruptive.
And I'm not cutting my grass even enough. I'm cutting it too early in
Are
the
you
morning.
out there with a ruler measuring the length of the grass?
No, sir.
And later,
I decided that I wanted to relocate back to Oklahoma, but because of my religious beliefs, I wanted to make sure that the house was free and clear of any bad spirits.
Why would you conclude that there were potentially bad spirits at the property?
The windows started opening on their own.
closed captioning provided by. If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. America's Court is back with the case of Daniel Downs, who is suing James Thomas for property damage.
Was there a conversation about the time of day that he's cutting the lawn?
Yes, sir.
What time of day did you find objectionable?
Well, 5 o'clock on a Saturday morning, sir, and my doctors have told me because I have a heart
I don't need to know
condition-
about the doctors.
But that's
I just need to
important,
know
sir.
that the time was 5 a.m. on Saturday morning.
Correct.
Are you cutting your lawn at 5 a.m. on Saturday morning?
No, sir.
What time were you cutting the lawn?
It was sunrise.
Sunrise can be as
About
early as 6 a.m.
6:30.
Okay, so it's early on a Sunday morning that you're cutting the lawn, and he's complaining
No,
that it's too early.
Saturdays. I cut my
Okay.
lawn on Saturdays.
You're cutting the lawn early Saturday morning, and
Yes,
he's
sir.
complaining that it's too early and the noise is disruptive.
And I'm not cutting my grass even enough. I'm cutting it too early in
Are
the
you
morning.
out there with a ruler measuring the length of the grass?
No, sir, but the issue of the timing of his cutting is critically important to me. to
Well, are you
maintain my
staying up
health.
late the night before? So, I mean, if he's cutting his grass the same time every week, he may have
No,
things
not-
he
not
needs
every
to...
week,
Sir,
sir.
you're interrupting me.
All right.
He may have things to do, and so he's trying to get his chores out the way so he can handle the rest of his
Yes,
day.
sir, I agree with you, but he needs to respect the needs of the neighbors as well. I've invested a lot of money in the
Sir,
integrity of
respect
this
goes
neighborhood.
both ways. Respect goes both ways. If it's once a week and he needs to handle things, then either you make it a point to leave, or you put on some earplugs, or you do some things, because you can't dictate what time someone cuts their lawn.
Well,
And if you're going and complaining about it, that's probably not going to end well for you. Because if anything, if you're complaining about what time I'm cutting my lawn, I'd probably go cut it even earlier, just to annoy you.
Well, again, it's a sign of disrespect, and I
complains about
don't
my
show that
grandkids.
disrespect to
Disrespect goes
him.
both ways. You don't know what he has planned that day. For all you know, he's cutting the grass early because he can't do it at the time that's convenient for you.
It's not a matter of convenience, sir.
Now, if he were cutting the lawn at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, that would seem unreasonable. But if he's someone that likes to get his chores done early,
5 o'clock in the morning?
for some people, that's what works for them. And that's not unreasonable, sir. Does he do it every day?
Saturday mornings.
Okay, so Saturday
Especially when I'm
mornings.
trying to sleep.
Well, then that's part of being a neighbor. Sometimes there's give and take. That's the give and take you've got to have. Your give and take is you can't just do this halfway.
Okay, so
That's the issue.
All right.
And the bottom line is you wouldn't have invested this money had you not burned down your own fence
Right.
that you happen to share with this man. So ultimately what it comes down to is we can do this one or two ways. We know that the fence has to have consistency all the way across. We know that. The only question is who should pay for it? The only reason why we're having this discussion is because there was damage done that you, sir, caused. He is entitled to be made whole. Because with the fence being destroyed, he has suffered damage. I know it's also your fence, but he suffered damage. You got to make him whole. What makes him whole is a new fence. And then there's a gap between this fence and the other fence.
Well, why can't he be neighborly? And
Because he didn't burn it down to begin with.
Okay, I understand that.
Now,
but
is he entitled to $1,500? Did you give me an estimate? The estimate is labor and materials, but you said you were able to do it for $750.
Yes, sir.
All right, based on the evidence and the testimony before this court, the gavel will come down in favor of the plaintiff. Here's what I'm gonna do. This fence looks great, what you did.
Yes, sir.
If you can extend that all the way down for an additional $750, I'm willing to award Mr. Downs that $750. And I'm gonna give you 60 days. And if he comes back saying, Judge, look at what this fence looks like and it's not done satisfactorily, well then he's gonna be entitled to that $1,500.
Okay, sir.
But if you're able, whatever cost you're able to get that fence looking like it does on this side and it goes all the way through, then that will be the order as it relates to paying another $750. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
All right,
All right. You guys are something else. That is the order. Case closed.
All rise.
Judge Ross has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has been ordered to fix the remainder of the fence.
My compliments to the judge. Justice was served, and I look forward to my fence being repaired and fixed as to the original standard. Thank you very much.
But I have to agree with the judge's decision. And thank you very much.
Coming up on America's Court with Judge Ross.
And what, if anything, did you pick up while you were there?
I felt that there was spirit activity there.
Based on what?
Based on the fact that what she told me of the windows opening, the things being misplaced, those are very common things.
Closed captioning provided by. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. Alyssa Summers claims she hired a medium to clear her home of negative spirits and says the only thing that was scared away was potential buyers. Ms. Summers is suing Vicki Whitford in the amount of $6,000.
Ms. Summers,
Yes, sir.
you're not happy with Ms. Whitford, so you want $6,000.
Yes, sir.
Talk to me about that.
I started misplacing things that I was certain that I was putting in particular spots. I decided that I wanted to relocate back to Oklahoma, but because of my religious beliefs, I wanted to make sure that the house was free and clear of any bad spirits.
Why would you conclude that there were potentially bad spirits at the property?
The windows started opening on their own. So I spoke with one of my friends. She put me in contact with the defendant as a medium to come in and to search the property.
All right, Ms. Whitford, so this is the type of work that you do on a regular basis?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you pick up while you were there?
I felt that there was spirit activity there.
Based on what?
Based on the fact that what she told me of the windows opening, the things being misplaced, those are very common things.
And what did you suggest?
I suggested that I come back and do a follow-up seance.
She seemed credible to you?
She did. In fact, she discussed with me ahead of time not to mention anything about the spirits when we did the initial walkthrough. So I was trying to be open. So I wanted to make sure that I was doing a good deed for the potential buyers, which I did get a potential buyer in the amount of $620,000. And then that's whenever the defendant showed up for the second time to perform the seance. But as I have to show in my evidence here, she did not show up in the afternoon, which was our agreed upon time. She showed up at 11 o'clock in the morning when the potential buyer was there, and she came over
and she,
disclosed.
Pardon the pun, she spooked them.
Yes, she did. So I waited 3 more months, and I ended up taking $6,000 less.
You ended up selling for $614 instead of $620.
Yes, sir.
Coming up on America's Court.
The only information that would have pertained to whether or not she was there to conduct the seance would have been information you would have shared.
Actually, she came over and offered that information while I was talking to the potential buyers.
Closed captioning provided by. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. America's Court is back with the case of Alyssa Summers, who is suing Vicki Whitford for negligence.
You didn't have any indication that she was going to be entertaining or showing the house?
Yes.
No.
And I have evidence of that.
All right, let me see what you're reading from and let me see your evidence.
Okay, I'll be right back. Is everything running to the judge?
Yes.
Because right now, we're only talking about a difference of an hour.
That's hers.
Correct.
what do you
But
got
the potential buyers were on the way out.
Well, thank you for affirming that.
Yes. So the potential buyers were on the way out of the property.
No, you send her an email saying, looks like Sunday afternoon will work better, but let me call you to confirm.
Yes.
And then you say, I guess a period of time went by and you never heard from her?
Never heard from her.
She says in the email Sunday afternoon. Afternoon usually means after 12.
I know, but I was there a little early.
Okay. All right.
But the problem, sir, Your Honor, is with...
You've already explained it to me. You write, I write as you talk, and she talks, and I write, and I look at evidence.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, hold on a moment. If she's just walking onto the property at 11 o'clock while people are there,
But that wasn't the problem. She was unloading.
I didn't finish the question, so how are you answering it?
I apologize.
If there are people there looking at the house, and she just walks on the premises, unless she was in some sort of unusual or kooky costume or something, how would they know who she was? For all they knew, she was a neighbor, she was a relative, she was a business associate. The only information that would have pertained to whether or not she was there to conduct the seance would have been information you would have shared.
Actually, she came over and offered that information while I was talking to the potential buyers.
Judge Ross's verdict when America's Court returns. Promotional consideration provided by... This is America's Court with Judge Ross.
You saw her with some individuals at the house
Yes.
at 11.
Yes.
And then what did you do?
I started unloading my car, and she just felt it compelled to volunteer the information of what I was there. I never said one word what I was there.
No, she did, Your Honor.
No, I didn't.
She said to the potential buyers, don't worry about these candles and these tapestries. These are just to get the bad spirits out. Then I felt inclined and obligated to tell the potential buyers that this is what you could possibly be getting into.
I get it. They had made an offer. You hadn't even started escrow. And based on the evidence and the testimony before this court, the gavel has to come down in favor of the defendant.
If you would just look at my evidence, sir.
You didn't
that's
think
all
I
I'm
looked at your
asking.
evidence? I've already ruled against you. The case is closed. We're done.
Judge Ross has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim has been denied.
I'm just glad I got a chance to clear Alyssa's house. I have no resentment or malice towards her, and I wish her all the best in her future endeavors.
I didn't mean to disrespect the judge. The defendant was wrong. She said she wasn't going to tell anyone, and she did.
Follow America's Court on Facebook and Twitter. This has been a production of Entertainment Studios.